Welcome to A Comic Book Look, your weekly TV show on comics and anything relating to comic books. I am your host, Tom Devine. This is my co-host, John Runyan. We are back already. This is issue number 6. It's going to be a good show, I think, especially for me. John, what are we talking about today?
We're discussing DC Comics.
Yes, indeed.
A little something new for me, so bear with me.
Sad that it is new, but I do...
It's not, it's not new, but, you know.
It's also not your bread and butter. But anyway, yes, DC Comics. It's one of the two major publishing companies that publish American comic books, Marvel and DC. Marvel usually owns, I think, a little bit more share of the market, but it's right behind it usually at all times, sometimes takes over Marvel. It's been around for a long time, though. DC Comics is called DC Comics. It stands for Detective Comics. Detective Comics is also one of its titles that's been around since 1937, before even Superman was around, and so that's pretty cool. DC Comics owns Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, called the Trinity. That's what comic fans talk about.
Solid characters.
Yep, and you see more lunch pails and TV shirts and everything of all the three of those characters too. They're definitely icons of America, and Batman didn't appear in DC Comics or Detective Comics until issue number 27. That was in 1938, I think. And after that, then it really took off. Superheroes were around, and Batman is arguably one of the biggest superheroes of all time. What do you think?
I'd definitely say so. From the comic book fans to the not-so-comic book fans, you know the name, you know the face.
Yeah, I mean, who's bigger?
Yeah.
Superman, maybe Spider-Man, but I mean those are both close calls.
Batman's pretty.
Batman's probably the biggest, and he is the star of Detective Comics. It's always a comic book of mysteries or solving crimes or just starring Batman. And it doesn't always star Batman, I guess, but it usually always takes place in Gotham City and has some Bat-related character. But DC history has take place then. That was how many years ago now? Still around, still putting out comics of those same characters, add tons of their resume. The main Justice League of DC Comics would be Aquaman, Flash, and Green Lantern added to the Trinity. Those are probably the 6 big, worlds or superhero different divisions at DC Comics. I consider myself a DC guy. I started at Marvel because when I first started reading comics, like most fools, I like Marvel more. I like the X-Men, I like the Fantastic Four. Those were always, the cool ones. Now as I've grown into comics a lot more, I really feel strongly that, I like DC comic books more than I like Marvel comic books, generally. How about you, John?
That's your experience, you know what I mean?
So how about you?
Well, I actually haven't really quite grown in the comics, I suppose, just yet. It's not my time.
Oh, that's not what I'm saying. I know. You don't take it wrong.
I'm just playing with you. No, I actually, I've been, dipping the little feet into the pool of DC a little bit, trying to get familiar with some of the characters. I'm not completely deaf to the universe by any means. I watch the cartoons. I enjoy them. Those movies that you can get on Netflix and stuff. You're down with Clark Kent. You're down with Bruce Wayne. I know the characters. I know the layout. I actually enjoyed the 90s cartoon of Batman. Yeah, every day after school, I was rocking that along with watching X-Men on Saturdays, So I definitely appreciate a lot about the DC universe. And coming up here, we might be seeing me pick up a little DC book or two once a week. Just to kind of get familiar some more, because, with the reset, maybe that's a good time for me to jump on board on there, so I'm not completely lost in issue 500 and whatever.
Yeah, I hear that. Well, what are some of the TV shows and different things that that you got your knowledge of DC?
Sure. Primarily, honestly, it's going to be, Superman cartoons and Batman cartoons.
Yeah, from the 90s.
Right. And, just learning about the villains and so forth, awesome. You go and see those movies, awesome. I love every single Batman movie. Some of them might be cheesy, or whatnot, but they're just, for their time, I mean, it was just awesome. I had just a blast watching each and every one of those, and I'm not even like a diehard DC fan, so I'm sure all you DC fans out there were like rocking the seats, to those. But
yeah, especially the last
these
two.
Newer, yeah,
the last two ones
awesome.
were the best. I mean, definitely.
We won't even talk about Green Lantern. That just didn't happen. We'll stick with Batman. But
I think it's a cliche. We have to mention Green Lantern and how bad it was during every episode. I think we've done it since we've seen it. It's still ingrained into our head that we didn't like it.
Yeah.
But anyway, another
But,
DC. It's part of DC Comics.
And my one favorite cartoon, and I'm proud of myself about this. I have all the seasons of Batman Beyond on DVD.
Yeah. That is, I mean,
I love that show.
I have one movie of Batman Beyond that me and my daughter watch sometimes,
yeah.
where it's like the Joker like implants himself in Tim Drake.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, it's pretty cool. And but that's my only look. He has a cool dog, though, Batman. So that's pretty sweet. But yeah, I mean, DC Comics. When you came to me and we were talking about stories before, the show, before TV, show ideas,
yeah.
Like earlier this week, and you were like, let's just do DC. I was like, oh yeah, that's great. I mean, I have so much stuff to talk about, and I do. I mean, it's just, I was thinking about it, and I was like, how are we going to do a show on DC Comics? It's such a huge thing and has so many comics going out all the time. It's, such a big idea that, after I started compiling things and what I wanted to put in here, it just got out of hand.
Yeah.
So, we're definitely asking a lot. And as me being a DC guy, you are not a DC person where, I'm going to talk about all these books and then you probably haven't read any of them.
Possibly. But the way I see it, and the reason why I propose this idea, and we don't have to do it all tonight, because I know that 30 minutes on YouTube for me, and oh my gosh, get me something solid with a cola to mix it with. But I proposed it just because this is a good opportunity, because we're all about sharing our knowledge, and this is a good opportunity for me to learn about what I like, which is comics, and DC is obviously a big part of the comic book world, so that's why I'm doing that, So, and I got some basics.
Yeah, and you do. I mean, and you've been picking it up. And what is the one DC title you do pick up?
I read Titans.
Titans.
The bad team under Slade or Deathstroke.
And so, I love DC Comics, and when he told me that he's going to pick up DC title and he picked up Titans, my jaw almost fell to the floor. I mean, it is considered maybe one of the worst books that DC puts out.
That's not true. That's one of the best books.
And that's why the show is good though, because we just like such different titles. Even the books that you picked out and to read out, it's like I would never pick those. That's why it's our dynamic is just the shit.
Yep.
So I'm going to run through just some ongoing titles that I think really make a difference in the industry, and I think are very good. The first one is a book that shouldn't even be Zatanna. She's the magician in the DC universe, usually mostly seen with Batman, and she has had 15 issues come out. I mean, it is rare that you would see a book like that. You're probably thinking, who buys that title? Well, they've happened to have great artists, great writers be able to work different things and in different arcs into the story, and it's been a great title. Get a chance, pick it up. Another cool one is that just completed was the only good thing that came out of the event Brightest Day is Generation Lost. It's basically a rehashing of the Justice League International, and it has like one of my favorite characters, Blue Beetle, and that's why I picked that cover. That's really cool. Jonah Hex, I talk about it all the time, but I can't stop because any person at any time could pick up any Jonah Hex comic, and it's a one-shot. They read it in 10 minutes, and they enjoy it. Nobody, unless maybe if you're a little weakling, because it's pretty bloody. Have you ever read a Jonah Hex comic?
No.
That we're gonna have to make sure that you read one.
Okay.
Have you ever read a Western comic?
No.
I got a few good Western comics that I want you to read.
I'll take that one.
Right now, what's going really big at DC Comics, currently they are having some low points at DC Comics selling-wise. The Green Lantern series after Blackest Night has really dropped off and is not good. They have like 4 books and none of them are really piquing anybody's interest, or mine at least. Superman books just haven't really been that good. Action Comics had a good run, but it was starring Lex Luthor.
What were the titles for the Green Lantern? Like, cause are they still doing like the Sinestro Corps separate?
I think that's not separate.
Not separate anymore.
Yeah, it's going to be Green Lantern Corps, or Corps, and then the Emerald Warriors.
Okay.
And those are like the 3 books that they have. Okay. But what has been killing it is Batman. Everybody's favorite character has actually... people will look back in the history of Batman comics and say that right now is a huge time to be reading Batman comics. Grant Morrison, arguably one of the greatest writers in comics, is just finishing up about a 4-year arc on Batman, and it's finishing in Batman Incorporated, where Bruce Wayne has told the world that Batman, that he funds Batman, and all the money and gadgets that Batman has are coming from Bruce Wayne Enterprises. And so it's a big game changer. You know, it in turn kind of points Bruce Wayne, you know, he is Batman, so, you know, a lot of more focus on him, and it brings in all these different Bat characters. Batman just it unleashes, you know, his gear and his, you know, money to fund other superheroes around the world to defend, like, their territory, and it's just such fun comics.
Nice.
It's so good.
Do you meet those other characters? Like,
oh, yeah. Like, on this last one, I mean... These are characters, like, it's a Batman and Robin character, basically, except they're called something different.
Right,
and
in a different region.
They protect an Indian reservation.
That's awesome.
And it's so good. It's so cool when Batman goes down there. And
nice.
it's just a really good book. And it has great art, and Grant Morrison's just such a smart writer.
That's cool.
Another really cool area that we've had is Scott Snyder came in recently. He's a new writer, and he's the one that... for anybody who's a new reader, if you see Scott Snyder's name on a book, just pick it up. It's gonna be good. That's what it is like these days. He's co-writing this with Kyle Higgins, Gates of Gotham, documenting the like early history of Gotham and the architecture and how it's so unique, because Gotham has such a look to it, and ties it in with a modern day tale. It's absolutely amazing. And then look at this cover. We'll put a bigger image, because I mean this is one of the best covers in the last, I don't even know how long.
I loved it when I saw that.
This is one of the best covers of the year, the last 2 years. I was absolutely blown away when I saw this. Jacques is doing the cover, and he's Scott Snyder's writing it, and it's a Joker tale, but it's not a Joker tale, and it has a great twist at the end that, you know, we should have all seen coming, but when the Joker comes in, you just never know. And it's one of the most phenomenal books right now. I would say it's one of the best books coming out at this time, and something you can be excited for, and people are going to always talk about for a long time. The best books, though, I dug these out of the long box, that I feel have came out since I have started reading comics again. The best story arc that I have read since reading comics on a regular basis is Batman and Robin 1, 2, and 3. Grant Morrison, Frank Quitely, they work magic together in these 3 issues. It's a must-read for anybody. I'm going to borrow these to John so he can read them, but it's the storytelling mixed with the writing, mixed with Damian Wayne as Batman. As Robin. He's Batman's like stolen son, and then Batman is not Bruce Wayne. It is Dick Grayson, the original Batman, and it is literally it just redefines how fun Batman comics can be and how good they are, and it was really something special. And I just remember going to the store and, you know, reading these first 3 issues especially were just blew me out of the water. So that is my long-winded
Well, I actually had a question for you on the Joker cover one. Is that in continuity with all the other books that are going on right now?
Yes, it is.
Because in Gotham City Sirens, DC title, they Harley tried to bust Joker out of what
Arkham Asylum.
Arkham Asylum. See, I'm reading. Got that. And Poison Ivy's all breaking in like, no, we're BFF, Harley, don't go back to Joker. Choose him or me. And obviously Harley chooses Joker because those two are like inseparable.
Oh, Mr. J.
Yeah. So now she's back in jail again, so I hope it was worth it. But that's interesting. I just was like wondering. I guess I'll have to read that issue too now because I'm kind of curious as to what it's
Yeah,
about.
well, in this one, actually, Joker's out of jail.
What?
Yeah, he's broken out of Arkham.
Okay.
And,
That happens way too much.
Yeah, it does.
You think they get it right.
He has the greatest Joker font. Though I want to show a page because you got to see the Joker font if we can find one. But it's so good, and it just is. Batman is not Bruce Wayne in this. It's Dick Grayson still, the original Robin, and he's taken over, and he meets up with this Batman. He's like, "Ooh, I smell a bird, not a bat. You're not my Batman." And it's just like so good.
Yeah.
Oh my
Typical,
god! Yeah.
Typical Joker shenanigans.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. And the other cool thing I liked about Sirens too is just kind of seeing Catwoman just kind of she's just kind of ferocious in that book in terms of being like a hero. It's kind of cool just to see her in that role. I haven't really tuned in for a while. I'm used to the kind of the bad girl mentality, but it's kind of neat. I liked it.
Yeah,
I'm definitely gonna continue reading that one.
In Siren, she kind of seems like kind of one of those like the smartest one.
Yeah,
the smarter one. Keeps together. Poison Ivy's kind of like the bitch.
Yeah.
And Harley Quinn's like the crazy one, and Catwoman like holds
It's
it
funny
together.
because I'm reading Sirens because I love Poison Ivy too, but he's totally right.
Oh, I mean that's what's cool about her. I love Poison Ivy too,
The
but
personalities do make me laugh though. Yeah.
That's cool that you're reading that book, man.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you've ever read any of these books that I have on this table, but it is a giant stacks of books that I feel like these books are the difference between Marvel and DC.
Okay.
But I just think it's a big difference, with DC having titles that are game-changing titles in comics, and I mean, I just think that's what they have on have done before with these titles here. I mean, I have a whole stack of them that these are books that John has to read, will have to read, and and we're giving you a lot of homework, but you're a comic fan. I mean,
don't blow my phone up because I'm going to be getting my learn on. Plus, I actually am starting school at the end of the month, so I'm going to school twice.
Dude, word! That's awesome. Well, anyway, I want to go through a few of these. The first book is this one, Joker. It's a pretty good book. It's not the greatest book ever, but what's cool about it is, I mean, it's basically, you can definitely tell that this is the Joker from the movie.
Yeah.
And so you go see The Dark Knight, and you see, Heath Ledger's performance is amazing, and you go to Barnes & Noble, you can get this.
Carry it on.
It's just kind of cool that it's something that they do, and it ends up being okay.
That looks awesome.
Some of the huge ones in the past that have changed the game is Alan Moore took over Swamp Thing, basically a horror book. Ends up he digs way deeper and goes way headier than anybody has ever gone into normal comics, and writes this book that will sell and sell and sell. Anybody that's gets really into comics or DC will eventually go back and read it. I only have the first hardcover, but I plan on getting them all. The two big game changers when they say that like the Silver Age died and the Dark Age or the Modern Age started is when Watchmen and The Dark Knight, probably the two best-selling comic books in the histories of comics. Watchmen is obviously the big, Zack Snyder film that came out, and that was all based on this comic. It won the Hugo Award, only comic book to ever do that. That's just for novels. It has nothing to do with comics.
I love that movie too. I mean, that's just such a kind of a wake-up call. Like, this is what superheroes go through. There are people too. I mean, there's just unfortunate circumstances on there, people getting hurt and so forth. Real life, everyday Joe Schmo getting down and dirty, you know, the happy face with the blood on it says it all.
And it's almost just silly that, yeah, I know that's such a great symbolism, but it's just almost silly that nobody did this beforehand or thought of this.
Yeah.
You know, taking superheroes in that light. But yeah, these were two great. Another, you know, great series, absolutely great, is Starman. I have them all. I just have this one trade here, but Starman was a series that came out in the 90s when there was a lot of Flash and, you know, nothing much to story, a lot of emphasis on art and teams and, you know, energy powers and lameness overall around. And this is like kind of the diamond in the rough that snuck through. It is just a great story that James Robinson and Tony Harris tell, and then later Pete Snahovich or something like that. I'll put it down at the bottom. But it's really unique in the way that this is something Marvel would not do. It is a book that takes a whole character that gets really famous and then lets that same creator work on it the whole entire time, keep his whole entire vision, and at the end ends the book, and then nobody else takes it over. It's still his book, even though it takes place in the DC universe. He built his own area out of, and it's a book that I'm sure still sells too, and people will go back. I mean, they just put out hardcovers for it, and I mean, it obviously sells. It's something that, you know, maybe a different company would have tried to get as much money out of this character as you can. And DC looked at it differently and has not done that, at least not yet. So, you know, who knows? Someday we may get sequels to Starman and Watchmen, and, you know, then we can all puke and be pissed. Another really cool thing they do is put out Elseworlds Tales. A lot of times people get sick of the same old superhero stuff, you know. And this one is really cool. It's Superman, the Red Sun. It takes place like if Superman landed in Russia instead of America, and it's just such a cool look at.
Different spin on it.
Oh, it's a different spin. It's a really smart writing. Mark Millar wrote it. Apparently, he kind of ripped off some Grant Morrison themes for the end. But anyway, it's a really good book. That, I mean, it just takes what you know of Superman and then just puts him in a different situation and what little things would go wrong and or be different.
Huh.
And it's just
read that one too.
Yeah, and it's just really cool. And, you know, it's cool that they have these titles that, you know, people can always go back to. They're timeless, and they're modern classics. DC takes chances on different things, and with their Vertigo line, their Wildstorm line, their Minx line, different things that they've tried like those things, they've been able to bring into comics non-superhero, absolutely great titles. Vertigo is probably my favorite imprint. Almost every single book they put out, Image is probably my favorite imprint right now, but it's very close second. And they have put out titles that any comic book reader needs to read. They're always finite, I think you would say, stories where they always finish, not always, but for the most part. And they put out comic books every single month. These are huge stacks of, you know, books that you have to have. Why the Last Man, Must Read, Preacher, Transmetropolitan, Scalped, The Losers, Loveless, Hellblazer, V for Vendetta, all of these, The Sandman, probably one of the most famous comics besides Watchmen. These are all DC-owned books that are just absolutely amazing. Well, they're creator-owned books, but they're published through DC imprint of Vertigo. Well, these are the books that are legendary, and they come out with new issues of the books that are going to be legendary tomorrow. Like recent titles, Sweet Tooth, American Vampire, Unwritten, Scalped, and then all the Fables books. All of these are Vertigo titles that DC puts out that are mature, smart. Anybody who's a fan of literature, not just comics, can come in and read this. And, you know, I think that's what, you know, there's cliche when people think about comics.
Because they assume the cape.
Yeah, they assume it's going to be underwear on the outside.
Yeah.
You know, and so I feel like anybody that reads these books is really blown away. For the most part, I mean, some you don't like, some you do, and you know, I drop some and I pick up what I like. But I think all these ones that I've went through are going to be around and for a long time. And I mean, I think as soon as you get a chance, you have to read some of these. The first one I'm going to send home John with is Pride of Baghdad, though.
You see, I'm getting homework on this show.
Yeah, you are getting
You guys
homework.
have it easy. All you got to do is watch. You put me to work over here.
Exactly. This is about a lion pride, a pride of lions, a group of lions, a family, and escaping a zoo in Baghdad during like a war, the Iraq War. I mean, if this doesn't bring you to tears, I don't know what does. I mean, it is such a touching tale, and it's the stars of the book are lions. But BKV, did you ever watch Lost?
Oh,
The TV
like
show?
the first 3 seasons.
Oh, nice. Well, Brian K. Vaughan started writing a little bit after those first 3 seasons, and he wrote this book, and Why the Last Man. And he's a really good writer, but you have to read that. This is done. It's just one and done. It's just, original graphic novel, unlike, where something's going to end or there's hang on. I mean, it is a complete story, and it's great. Love DC.
That's all right.
Who doesn't, God. It's just so good. They've been around forever, and there's just so many cool things about DC Comics. Word, man. So, got anything else that you wanted to talk about on DC, or that you wanted to bring up? Any topics, or?
If any of you guys out there that just kind of are really amped about a certain line with DC, and you do observe that list of the new books coming out and have any suggestions, Tom and I kind of went over it about what I might be looking at coming up, but if you guys have any suggestions, just blow up that Facebook page or dish us an email or comment on YouTube kind of thing, because I really would like to get a little bit more familiar with DC by picking up, 2 or 3 a month or something, just to kind of get my feet wet a little bit besides Titans. So, one that I am going to go for, because you said Deathstroke is continuing.
Yeah, Deathstroke is going to have his own title.
I love that character. I've gotten to know him over the past about 15 issues or so of Titans, so that's been cool. But yeah, any recommendations that you guys got, I'm definitely keen on getting your input on it, because
come September, everybody better start reading DC comic books. You have a perfect jumping on point.
Yep.
You have 52 to choose from. I counted. I'm reading way too many of them, but I can't help myself.
That list you showed.
It's just there's some really big players to be excited for, though. I would say some must-reads for most people should be Justice League. It's Jeff Johns and Jim Lee.
Okay.
Jim Lee is your man from the X-Men from the 90s, so you should check that out. Another big one is going to be Wonder Woman. Brian Azzarello, gritty, dirty, really unique way of writing style is taking on Princess Diana. And so that's going to be interesting take and see where he takes it. So that's something to look out for. Some under-the-table ones that I really like are going to be Justice League Dark and Grifter, Wildstorm character, and then also Blackhawks. It's written by Mike Costa, and I'm super excited for that. Mike Costa wrote G.I. Joe for a while, and he's so good. I just can't wait. He's such a comic fan. I mean, he's just so into comics. God, I think I've talked about him before, but I just cannot wait for this title.
One thing I want to check out that Cobra Civil War. What's going on?
Yeah,
the title sounds cool. Like I keep looking at it. God, I really need to
and they
check
like
this
started
out.
over too. I mean, it's like issue number 3 or something. Or
Totally
I could totally get it.
I might have to do that.
But yeah,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean that does look sweet though. G.I. Joe comics. Well, all right, man. It was a good show.
Yeah, all in all, it's definitely, like I said, I'll probably be back next week. We're going to go ahead and give the Pride book a shot, maybe some DC books, and get me a little more familiar. It sounds like this is like Jon Intervention.
Hey, it is kind of Jon Intervention. We should label this issue number 6, Jon Intervention,
Yeah.
DC Comics.
Yeah.
No, but hey, where can they find us? Where can they talk to us at?
Yep, absolutely. Just hop onto your search box on the Facebook page and type in a comic book look. You can get at us there. Just click join and we'll get you approved within about an hour.
Yeah, that's the way it's been going.
Yeah, right? It's just like, boom, you're okay. Otherwise, check us out on YouTube, A Comic Book Look. Otherwise, if you want to send us an email, any character research requests that you want us to take a look at, any questions in general, topics that you want to see, we're doing this for you guys. This is something that we enjoy, and I know that it's a strong community out there.
And I would like to get a few more emails so then we could have an email show. We have one in the books that I would like to get, and then if we got a few more, then we could answer emails during the show.
Definitely.
That would be a fun time.
Definitely.
But remember, Wednesdays are comic book days. Get to your local comic book shop,
Yep.
buy comics. This is, the best comic book's the best storytelling medium around.
It is.
All right, we'll see you next week, guys.
Thank you.